Hello, my name is Seth Goldhammer, and I'm the Director of Product Management here at LogRhythm. I'm excited to be able to present to you today a full end-to-end workflow of LogRhythm, and we're going to highlight new innovations that have been brought to market with LogRhythm 7. Through the threat lifecycle management workflow, we're going to show how an analyst, kind of a day in the life of an analyst, would use LogRhythm. An analyst has different entry points to how they might use LogRhythm, and we're going to show three: how they could use the dashboard to start off this workflow, or searching with maybe a daily hunting or searching exercise that an analyst might perform, or through the review of our alarms. And I've highlighted here different LogRhythm 7 innovations that we'll be showing in our demonstration. No matter which entry point the analyst starts, we'll then show how they could quickly qualify that particular threat and then move into the investigative phase to understand full scope and root cause, ultimately helping to mitigate that threat. Now I'm going to turn to our web-based UI and talk a little bit more about that UI as we begin our demonstration. Here we are at LogRhythm's web UI. This is an HTML5 application, meaning that there are no plugins that I needed to install in order to be able to use this particular web interface. It's also been completely optimized for touch, meaning that I can run through this full demonstration whether I'm on my laptop, whether I'm on a mobile device like my iPad, maybe I'm on a large touchscreen TV in a SOC. So in fact, we can have multiple dashboards that we can create, and these are very customizable, and we'll show that for different types of form factors and different ways that we want to present the information given different users who may be participating in this particular deployment. So we'll talk a bit more about dashboards. We'll also talk about our risk-based prioritized alarms as we walk through this demonstration. And then we'll also talk about cases and our ability to show cases, whether for an analyst, in different ways that we can customize a dashboard of case workflow, or perhaps for a SOC manager. One of the things that our customers have really appreciated, one, all of our dashboards are live, meaning that this is, obviously real-time data is being fed into these dashboards, as well as I can double-click into anything that is of interest to me. Another thing that our customers have really appreciated is the ability to just very quickly get to the underlying log data. So by clicking on that log viewer, this analyst grid pops up, where I have the ability now to view all of that underlying log data that is comprised of the visualizations on top. What's interesting about LogRhythm, one of the ways that we can be optimized for mobile devices is we're keeping a very low footprint on the browser itself, on the client itself. We do that through technologies that we're leveraging to stream data to the browser as needed. So you'll notice that as I'm scrolling down, and I have hundreds of thousands of activities that are being represented here, I can scroll through all of those activities. Yet you can see that it's streaming that data as I need to, as I scroll. Even though I'm only seeing a partial set of information on my screen, I still have the ability to filter against the full data set if I am looking for particular types of activities. Perhaps I want to look at a particular type of common event. I want to now sort by the prioritization that's been applied to those particular types of events. So I can do these types of activities very quickly against the full data set while still keeping a very low footprint on the client side. As I said in the beginning, there are going to be three different workflows we're going to show how an analyst could kind of start that workflow. And the first is by just viewing information on the dashboard. Again, this is a live dashboard, meaning I can drill down into any particular activity here that may be of interest. This is a customizable dashboard, meaning I can choose from any of the widgets, and we have a growing library of widgets our customers can choose from to be able to represent information as meaningful as possible to different types of users of the system, where we can actually even edit these widgets in place, what type of information we want, even adding more advanced types of filters to these widgets. Now, one of the widgets we introduced in LogRhythm 7 is our threat activity map. This provides obviously we're plotting the actual activities that have occurred within this environment against this map with the ability to hover over, drill down, and see particular details about these activities. And that could give us a better indication of activities that could be of concern. For example, while we do some business in Asia, we do not do business in China. So these particular activities that I'm seeing in China, that could be concerning. And I have an ability to, just by double clicking, I can run a drill down on that. You notice that when I drill down, and you'll see this in other searches throughout the demonstration, that these searches run as a task at the bottom. That allows me to, as that search is being performed, I can still interact with the user interface. I could start other tasks. So my work is not slowed down as I'm trying to get to additional information. So let's go ahead and look at the results. This is going to bring us to our Analyze tab. And you'll see this Analyze tab quite a few times throughout this demonstration. Here we're looking at all of that traffic that we saw that was from, I should say, all the activities that occurred at that particular location in China. I can see here that there's actually a lot of flow data that's actually been recognized by LogRhythm's network monitor. We're also seeing a deep packet analytics rule that has fired. So deep packet analytics is an ability to create customized rules within network monitor that can look deep within a packet and really customize whether I'm going to generate an alarm from that. It could be also to perhaps trigger packet captures, so be more selective in terms of what packets should be captured in a session-based packet capture. And so I see that this deep packet analytics rule has fired for a protocol mismatch. And again, we have that access to that underlying log data. We can click on this log data, where again we can get all the information that network monitor forwarded from this. So we can see here that we have IRC traffic into China. That would be very concerning. I can also immediately get to the packet capture, and I can actually download that packet capture from the system. That packet capture is actually being hosted in the network monitor solution. If this being very concerning, I could create a new case. IRC traffic, from China. And so now we're introducing our case management capability. Case management gives us an ability to capture all of this information. Let me save that. Perhaps I want to add in these logs. So I've got network monitor, traffic and DPA rules. I also have the ability to add in the packet capture. This gives me an ability as an analyst to have a single place where I now have all of this information. Suspicious traffic. And now I'm tagging my case. So tagging is a new feature that was introduced in LogRhythm 7. Gives me an ability to add tags to all my cases where I can then search against those tags. Also create dashboards that are filtering against those tags, have better visibility to the types of occurrences, concerning activities that are occurring within my environment. I have the ability to even create new tags. So this gives us a good representation of this particular case where we could continue to look at this. Other concerning things that we saw here, not only was this IRC traffic, it was IRC traffic that occurred over port 53. That's why the deep packet analytics rule fired, was that we had IRC traffic over a DNS, what would normally be a DNS port. And that's what that particular rule was looking for. So here's one way that we can begin a workflow, and now we have a lot of information about what's happened, what hosts were involved, to get even what user was involved on that host, to get to a resolution of what we want to do with this IRC traffic that occurred. We even have some of the, actually because IRC is sending clear text, we even have some of the information about this IRC chat. It looks like there was a user, Carl, here that was involved. All right, so I'm going to shift gears now and talk about another way that we can access the system through search. Search is such a fundamental aspect of this type of technology, to be able to get into the data very quickly, get to information that is going to be helpful in terms of making an assessment. LogRhythm provides an ability to both search against the full message text, just with keyword search, kind of Google-like search, but also take advantage of all of our contextualized structured data fields. What this gives an ability is to have the right criteria to get to very quickly a set of information that is going to be impactful. To give an example of that, if I were to look for the words, finance, and I want to add to that perhaps not only finance, the word confidential, forecast, strategy, etc. Right? I'm looking for terms that these would be on highly confidential type of documents. I could run that search. However, that's a very broad search. That search could bring back a lot of innocuous activity, not just concerning activity. It would take a lot of time as an analyst to really review of these activities, which are the activities that I would want to actually look at a little bit more closely, to determine, is that a legitimate access for that type of content. I bet if we come up with a more precise search, we could get more quickly into an impactful assessment of information. So perhaps if I wanted to look for not just the log message contain finance and confidential, etc. But I want to also add that this was a successful access. So I'm going to look for how LogRhythm has classified that particular log. LogRhythm has over 750 has support for over 750 different devices, applications, and systems, where our LogRhythm Labs team has built pre-created processing rules to help derive more meaningful information and contextualized structured data from those log messages. That gives me the ability to now utilize both the unstructured search against log data as well as the use of our structured data, where I can now have a much more precise search. I'm now looking for users on a watch list. That watch list is being populated automatically through AI engine rules, as well as manually. We can add users to this watch list, so they've done something suspicious already, and they successfully have touched an object that now has these keywords, finance, confidential, etc. This provides a much more meaningful search, where now we're getting to a much more impactful set of information that allows me to now understand of those users who've accessed financial, confidential strategy records. These are users that I am concerned about. So I can see here I do have from our file integrity monitoring, this is our endpoint monitoring solution. We have seen users on the financial server who actually were in our watch list. So this would be, and I can see here the user is Stephen Jacobs. So now we very quickly were able to get to a concerning set of information. And again, I can create a case that can capture this. So watch list user accessing finance. And I can add in logs, etc., just like we saw before. Looks like I've got Stephen Jacobs accessing financial records. And again, I can tag this. Maybe this is an insider threat or an account takeover. I could tag this by maybe the name Stephen Jacobs. So I have the ability to kind of capture all of the pertaining information about this case, as well as any other logs and alarms that I might now want to associate to this case. So this is a second way that we can begin our workflow through the use of precision search. Now the last way that I'm going to show in this demonstration that we can begin this workflow is from our alarms page. Great, so our On the Alarms tab, what we see here is a representation of all the alarms that have fired, and we can see predominantly the risk-based score that's been associated to those alarms. Now, as an analyst, what I might look at are all new alarms from a particular entity. Entity is a logical segmentation of the network. This could also be this aligns to our data segmentation. So it's, for MSSPs, this could be individual customers, for example. And you can see here other filtering abilities, as well as sorting abilities that I have to sort by risk, sort by date, so that as an analyst I could come in very quickly, start getting to those high-risk activities, and use my time as effectively as possible based on those activities that represent the most risk to my organization. When I click on an alarm, you'll see in the Inspector tab I have more information that can be used to help me understand more about why this alarm fired. As well, you see here that there are alarms that have associated smart response actions. So smart response is an ability to tee up actions aligned to that type of activity that's been observed, that was captured in that alarm. So here in the Inspector tab, if I collapse the data, I can look at just the smart response actions. In multiple smart response actions, which is new in LogRhythm 7, gives me the ability to have multiple actions teed up or automated, automatically trigger as a result of this particular alarm. For example, in this case, when we had an abnormal files were accessed, we might immediately add this user to a watch list. So that was an action, didn't require approvers, and could immediately fire. We have other activities here, such as we want to disable that account because we're concerned about that abnormal file access. Perhaps this is an activity we do want a security analyst to review before they approve that action. And we can even have perhaps we want to just quarantine the device, take it off of the network by disabling its network interfaces. Perhaps this is something that not only security, but a network administrator needs to be involved with that approval process. So we can have multiple types of actions all teed up, ready to go, or automatically firing as a result of this particular activity that's been observed through our smart response capability. Now I'm going to look at this particular alarm, which is the corroborated alarm. It's corroborated. What that means is it's actually seen multiple activities that have all been triggered either from the same user, from the same host, from the same kind of data, sensitive data. In this case, it's a corroborated account anomaly. So it's seen multiple anomalies, 3 or more unique behavioral anomalies from the same user. And this happens to be Stephen Jacobs, who we're already familiar with. In fact, our precision search, we've already seen this abnormal files that were accessed, that was captured in an alarm. We can also see here that DPA protocol mismatch. That was that alarm, that was that activity that we saw from the drill down off of the dashboard from that threat activity map, where we saw that action from China. So that's also represented here with a risk score here in our alarms page. From the alarms page, not only do you have the ability to see information, I can then drill down to the underlying logs. Also have the ability to associate these logs into cases. Since we've already created a case about Stephen Jacobs, we can now add this alarm into our case we've already created about this particular user. And now let's drill down to that underlying set of information. So here are all of the particular activities that have been anomalous for this account, Stephen Jacobs. We see again that financial server that's represented here. And like we can on any screen, we have access to these underlying logs. Now what I want to do is pivot my search about Stephen Jacobs as part of this investigation. If you notice, as I click on the row in this analyst grid, there are gears here. What that gives me the ability to do is now I can click on a gear and I get options. I can add, Stephen Jacobs to a watch list. Or to other lists as well. And I could add Stephen Jacobs to a search. So I want to look for Stephen Jacobs, whether he was the logged in user or the account. And I'm not going to search now. I'm going to create a broader search with that particular criteria. I'm also going to add the financial server, whether that was the origination or the impacted host. I'm going to add that to my search. What that gives me the ability to do is now look at this. I can now add more search criteria if I wanted. I'm actually going to edit this. Maybe I don't want all of the following. I want any of the following. Anything about Stephen Jacobs, anything within the financial server. My activities here, these were not, these have just been really just within the last few minutes. So I can actually reduce my search criteria, within hours, or maybe just even within the last 15 minutes. So I now have, again, a precise search to now go for and look for everything Stephen Jacobs, everything about this financial server aligned to the investigation that I'm performing. And it can pull up those results now very quickly. Now what can I see here? First I want to sort this. I actually want to see kind of time. I'm going to start in the last 15 minutes, 12:03 to 12:11. What I can see here, well, this is interesting. What we're seeing is it looks like Carl Wilson actually granted access to Stephen Jacobs, and then Stephen Jacobs access to financial servers, and then we can see Carl Wilson deleted Stephen Jacobs. So this looks like a temporary account that was created. And then we also see access to web access, and we can see here that this web access was to Dropbox. So certainly some concerning activities here that are occurring with Carl Wilson using the account Stephen Jacobs. And again, with our case here, we can add all of these logs. Carl Wilson creating the account. So we've now got to a root cause of this particular system. And in fact, if I remember I could go back to the case for our about China. That China traffic also mentioned Carl. So I think we have a couple activities here that are now associated together. And in fact, we can, that IRC traffic, we can pull that in as an associated case to Stephen Jacobs. By associating these cases together, I now have the ability to really get to the superset of information. And I'm going to go to the case itself. I can add collaborators to this case, perhaps escalating it to the Tier 2 team. I can even assign different owners as I escalate this. Perhaps I want to review back that information that I've pulled in, perhaps pin certain evidence as being more interesting. Carl Wilson creating the account, that is definitely kind of a pivotal set of information about this case, so I can pin that to the top. And then I can get back to that IRC traffic from China, again, to review that information, such as the PCAPs or the logs themselves, to evaluate, was that Carl that they were referencing in that message that we saw. So I hope you've seen throughout, whether we've started on the dashboard, we started through precision search, or we started from an alarm, a full workflow where we were able to very quickly get to the evidence and collect that evidence into a case where we could coordinate that case with other analysts, where we could use smart response to automate actions that would help us to more quickly get to information or mitigation countermeasures that we want to take. And that allows us a more organized and expedient fashion to detect and resolve the concerning activities and the most concerning activities, given the ability to see the overall risk of those activities to the organization. On this case dashboard, we're able to, and again, this is customizable, where we can then view the case workflows or even see live information as it's being added into a case to keep us well informed as to the latest status of particular sets of concerns or trends of the types of activities that we're seeing within the environment. I hope that this has been an informative session to learn much more about LogRhythm and see some of the new innovations and how those could be used as part of this workflow that came in with LogRhythm 7. I want to thank you again for your time.